But in all honesty, I think Jane really hit upon something that I think is so important, because when you think about technology today and sort of what's happening in the world, at the end of the day, it's not about technology, it's the valued relationships. And every one of you really said that in your own way, in a different answer to different questions. And somebody who's raised a lot of money in the charity world once said to me, people don't give to organizations, they give to people. And so, when you're out there trying to succeed in the world of philanthropy, you have to remember this is a relationship that you have with somebody. And if you just look at them, like Jane did not do this, because even though she knew she was dealing with somebody who was a very successful individual, you look at them as a person and you relate to them as a person, they'll relate to you at the same way, and they will open up to you as a person. But if you look at them as a dollar sign and say, oh my God, I've got to get to know that person because of this, you're going to miss the boat on developing a relationship that you really want to develop with them. And I think that ultimately goes back to the point everybody was saying here, which is that social media is great, but it's not necessarily the ask, nor is it the relationship. It's a way to maintain a relationship potentially and build a community, but the relationship is the ultimate essence of what you're trying to do. And I think that's, to me, the key thing that I learned today, quite frankly, and James, really the way you talked about it really emphasized that. And so I just think that's important to remember that. Also, Jane mentioned a book, and another book I'd like to mention is the book called The Tipping Point, which most of you probably have heard of. Right. And Marie actually wrote a little report for me on The Tipping Point. But an excellent book, and Jane is an example of what we call a connector. She's one of the best I've ever seen connecting people, completely unselfishly. And when you connect people up with each other, that's really what this is all about, bringing people that I think are good people in a room together. Rebecca is one of the best, quite frankly, in Pasadena at doing this stuff. You begin to build your community, and you build the energy, which is ultimately the engine, this is my opinion, by the way, about innovation. Innovation occurs through energy. And the excitement of doing something differently, taking an idea like the carousel idea and spinning it on its heels. That's the type of stuff that is innovation. So there was an organization, anybody here ever heard of Tom's Shoes?
Yes.
Simple idea. What does Tom's Shoes do? Every shoe they sell, pair of shoes is donated. It's a little weird. They donate a pair of shoes, and it's a huge company. And it really, I think, emulates well Noah's idea of triangulation, which are you the inventor of that word?
No.
I give him credit, but energizes that idea. It creates energy around something because there's a commerce idea here, there's a charity idea here, and it bridges the whole gap. And so there's so many opportunities to be able to do this stuff with what you're doing, but if you don't start to brainstorm, take your board retreats, and encourage that. If you're at a board meeting and somebody says something and the chair goes, well, I don't want to hear from you. I mean, you're really not encouraging energy. And innovation cannot occur where there's no energy. So you've got to find a way to create the energy so that you really have people with brilliant minds. When, you hear Jason, everybody's like lazy because he's so smart. But on the other hand, he's working on major global issues. And how do you encourage that innovation? This is really, the prize theory is really at the highest level of doing that stuff. But he's still using some things that even us normal people can use in terms of ways to do that. So, really, these are the types of things that you have to be thinking about to change your organization, to make it what you want it to be. And it really doesn't matter, like Jason said, if you're working in a small area that's impoverished, you still can create community. You can still use technology. And that's really important, I think, for everybody to kind of understand that, because it's not just you're a global organization, although we all are now, we're all interrelated, but it's even working on specific projects the ways in which you utilize technology can become really important. I want to say thank you for coming. I do want to hear from Chuck Carroll in a second. I'd like to we got a couple questions. You guys okay with a couple questions from the audience? And a couple questions from the audience. Chuck, why don't you just come up for a second and talk a little bit. Chuck is with the Citizens Business Bank. They've been a partner of ours for a while in putting on events. Citizens Business Bank is the 10th largest bank in the state of California, and they have a division devoted strictly to charities.